There's a version of trauma that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with those catastrophic, dramatic moments you can easily point to. No accidents, no violence, not a single physical scar. Instead, it hides right in plain sight inside the most normal, even the absolute best parts of your life. So, what's it look like? From the outside, it looks like a perfectly functioning adult, someone who's always got it together, always arrives early, and never ever wants to be a burden to anyone. Someone who just laughs off their own pain because, hey, they figure others out there have it way worse. On the surface, you're the model citizen, the good kid, the great friend, but deep down, your nervous system is still running on an operating system that outdated itself 10, maybe 20 years ago. Today, we're going to name 10 behaviors you've probably always been proud of, things you thought were just your personality, just who you are. But through the lens of developmental psychology, they're actually silent cries for help from a child who never got to heal. Look, this isn't some lecture to judge you, and it's definitely not about blaming your parents. This is just a safe space for us to call out the heavy stuff you've been carrying for way too long. To understand why you ended up this exhausted, and most importantly, how to finally shut that broken operating system down. Behavior 1. The control freak, hyper-vigilance. You're the person who arrives 15 minutes early to literally everything. You gotta scope out the restaurant menu the night before, just so you know exactly what you're ordering and how much it costs. You have a backup plan for the backup plan, plan B, plan C, heck, even plan D for a simple weekend trip. People look at you and they're impressed. They're like, wow, they're so responsible, so conscientious, but what's the reality? It's your nervous system in a state of low-key panic. When a kid grows up in a house where a parent's mood changes, like the weather sunny in the morning, raining by the afternoon, and a full-blown thunderstorm at night with zero warning, that kid is forced to learn how to scan the room 24/7. You gotta watch the doorway, read their face, listen to the weight of their footsteps just to keep yourself safe. You aren't over-preparing in the present because you love being organized. You're doing it because you are terrified of unpredictability. Controlling your environment feels like the only way to stop the pain before it even hits you. The trap here is that you're confusing preparation with safety. Trying to control things that are literally impossible to control just proves you're still living in the fear of your past. And as an adult, that hypervigilance doesn't just vanish. It just finds brand new things to obsess over. What once kept you safe as a child is the exact same thing keeping you anxious as an adult. Behavior 2, the spotlight dodger. Someone walks by and tells you, hey, that report you did today? Seriously, outstanding job. What's your gut reaction? Almost like a knee-jerk reflex. You push it away instantly. Oh, it was nothing. I just got lucky. Honestly, it was a team effort. I couldn't have done it alone. Or maybe, please, I look so bloated today, definitely not pretty. People think you're just being humble and polite. But nope, you're turning on a defense mechanism. The kid you used to be grew up in a world where love was strictly conditional. You only got hugged or praised when you brought home straight A's, won an award, or made the grown-ups happy. You learned a bitter lesson early on. You are only as valuable as your last achievement. So now, a compliment feels like a trap. You're terrified that if you accept the praise today, you're accidentally putting yourself up on this high pedestal. And tomorrow, if you mess up, everyone will realize you're not actually that great. They'll be disappointed and they'll walk away. You deflect compliments because you honestly believe that if people saw the real you, they wouldn't love you anymore. You're shrinking your own worth ahead of time, just so nobody else gets the chance to break you. Behavior 3, the tragedy radar. You walk into a room. Nobody says a word. Nobody even clears their throat. But somehow, magically, you instantly smell the tension. You know exactly who is upset, exactly who is annoyed. And right away, completely on autopilot, you start adjusting yourself. You crack a joke to break the ice, you lower your voice, you shrink into a corner, or you keep asking, hey, does anyone need help with anything? Society praises you for having high emotional intelligence, EQ, for being perceptive, for reading the room. but psychology calls this something else. Emotional parentification, basically, being forced to play the parent way too early. You didn't just wake up with that hypersensitive antenna. You were trained. You were the kid who had to carry the heavy burden of managing the adult's emotions. You had to walk through your parents' emotional minefield just to keep the whole house from blowing up. There is a massive difference between empathy that comes from love and empathy that comes from fear. Someone with actual high EQ chooses to understand people when they want to, but you have to understand them. Because if you don't, you feel totally unsafe. Behavior 4. The pain shrinker. Every time something unfair happens to you or the pressure gets so bad your head feels like it's going to explode, instead of crying or reaching out to a friend, you instantly trigger this weird comparison trap. Come on. There are people out there with no food or clothes. I should be grateful for what I have. I'm just being selfish. You think you're being mature, open-minded, or practicing some positive stoic mindset, but honestly, you're just emotionally gaslighting yourself. This is the leftover residue from your childhood. Like when you cried because you lost a toy or got picked on at school and your parents just brushed it off. Stop crying over nothing. What do kids even know about being sad? Or we work ourselves to the bone and we aren't complaining? You're just spoiled. Your feelings got dismissed so many times that you actually started believing your own pain was just an inconvenience, something that didn't deserve to take up any space in this world. But pain doesn't have a global ranking system. There's no law saying you have to be the most miserable person on earth just to have the right to feel sad. Denying your own heartbreak isn't making anyone else's life better out there. It's just causing you to wither away on the inside. Behavior 5. Outsourcing the decision. You want to buy a shirt, but you gotta text a photo to 3 of your best friends first, just to ask if it looks okay. You're making a move at work, and even though you know for a fact it's 100% right, you still find yourself running around asking 5 or 6 different people for their stamp of approval before you actually pull the trigger. You just don't trust your own internal compass. The reason for this is painfully simple. When you were a kid, every single choice you made was crushed by grown-ups. You picked out an outfit, they called it outdated. You talked about a dream you had, they told you it was unrealistic. So you developed this conditioned reflex. My gut instinct is always wrong, and if I want to stay safe, I have to follow the crowd. Now that you're grown up, you burn through a massive amount of energy just chasing external validation, begging other people to greenlight things that your mind already knows the answer to. You're basically handing the keys to your entire life over to someone else. Behavior 6. The seesaw between too much and not enough. There are days when you feel like you're just a complete nuisance, talking too much, demanding too much, like you're taking up way too much room in everyone else's world. But then, the very next day, you crash into this deep toxic insecurity, feeling totally invisible, useless, like you can't do anything right. You are constantly swinging between these two extremes, too much and not enough. This comes straight from the erratic, baseless praise and criticism you got from the people who raised you. On days they were happy, maybe they won a card game or got a raise, they thought you were adorable and showered you with affection. But on days they were stressed or argued with a coworker, they looked at you like you were a massive burden and dumped all that anger right onto your head. You couldn't build a solid sense of self because the very first mirror you ever looked into your parents was completely warped and cracked. You need to understand that too much or not enough has never actually been a description of who you are. It's simply a reflection of how much emotional weight the people around you could handle at the time. Stop using an unstable person's ruler to measure the worth of a stable person. Behavior 7. The Fawn Response. Fight, flight, freeze. We all know those 3, right? But psychologist Pete Walker pointed out a 4th response, one that's way more dangerous and quiet: fawn. Basically, it means people-pleasing to survive. You find yourself nodding along and agreeing with opinions that you secretly despise inside. You never, ever dare to argue with anyone. Whatever people say, you're just like, yeah, whatever works, or I'm fine with anything. You take pride in being the easygoing, low-maintenance, cooperative one. But what's the actual root of this? When you were little, speaking up or being different literally meant danger. The only way for a helpless kid to stay safe and keep their spot in the group was to turn themselves into a perfect mirror, reflecting exactly what the adults wanted to see. You broke off all your own sharp edges just so other people wouldn't get hurt when they bumped into you. But you forgot one thing. Those broken shards are now pointing backward, digging deep into your own skin and making you bleed out every single day. Your kindness isn't genuine peace, it's a mask woven entirely out of the terror of being isolated. Behavior 8. Extreme independence. I can do it myself. I don't need anyone's help. It's just a hassle. You would literally rather work yourself to the bone, pull 3 all-nighters in a row, or end up hospitalized from pure exhaustion before you ever open your mouth to ask a coworker or a loved one for backup. To you, reaching out and asking for a hand feels deeply humiliating, weak, like you're a total failure. This is the proudest mask of all, the one modern society completely worships, but it's also the absolute most heartbreaking. It tracks all the way back to the times you cried for milk, begged for a hug, or asked your parents to help you with a tough math problem when you were little. But all you got back was cold indifference, a brushed-off hand, or a yell. Do it yourself! Can't you see I'm busy? The kid inside you realized a brutal truth. Asking for help only brings disappointment and pain. The best way to never get rejected is to never ask for anything. Your extreme independence isn't actually strength. It's a lonely fortress, a long-range defense mechanism put up to protect a seriously fragile ego hidden inside. You're just terrified of owing favors and terrified of giving people leverage over you. Behavior 9. The fear of stillness. You can never just sit still and do absolutely nothing. The second you finish your work at the office, you instantly dive into deep cleaning the house. The moment your hands are free, you're scrolling through your phone, watching videos, or playing a podcast. Your ears need noise, your eyes need visuals, your hands need a task. If someone made you sit empty-handed for just 10 minutes in a quiet room with zero electronics, this vague, unsettling anxiety, this tightness right in the back of your throat, would crawl up instantly. You tell yourself you're just driven, high energy, passionate about your career, or super productive. But nope, you are running away from yourself. Growing up in a chaotic home or one filled with the silent treatment keeps your nervous system stuck on code red. When everything around you goes quiet, your nervous system doesn't register it as peace. It's hardwired to think, this silence is just the calm before the storm, right before everything hits the fan. Your busyness isn't an ambition to succeed, it's active distraction. You have to keep yourself moving so you don't have to face the memories, the real emotions, or the cries of the inner child that are just waiting to boil over the second you slow down. Behavior 10. The conditional love contract. In every single relationship, you are always the one giving more by a landslide. You take care of your partner like a mother babysitting a toddler. You shoulder all the financial and emotional messes of your friends. You're always the one footing the bill, always the one taking the hit. And deep down in the darkest corner of your mind, you live with this invisible, haunting terror. If I ever stop being useful, if I stop bringing value to the table, they're going to pack up and leave me in a heartbeat. You're carrying around this invisible contract signed in blood from your childhood. You gotta be good, get straight A's, and do the chores if you want mom and dad to love you or buy you toys. You were brainwashed into thinking that the real you, just sitting there doing nothing, is completely worthless and undeserving of love. You believe your output and performance is the only thing keeping people around. You are turning your emotional relationships into business transactions under the guise of sacrifice. But you're forgetting one huge thing. People buy a product because it's useful, but they love a human being simply for who they are. You deserve to be loved even when you're just lying there doing absolutely nothing at all. 10 behaviors, 10 masks. Did you see a reflection of yourself in any of them? Listen to me. Don't beat yourself up. Don't sit there thinking you're pathetic, broken, or some kind of mistake. Every single one of these behaviors, back in the day, was a brilliant invention of yours. It was the exact survival strategy that the 6-year-old, the 10-year-old you used just to make it through an imperfect world. Your nervous system did an incredible job at its main mission, keeping you safe. But you're grown up now. You are no longer that helpless kid trapped in that old bedroom. You have the right to choose a different way to live. You have the right to say no, the right to be exhausted, and the right to be loved simply for who you are, not for what you can provide for everyone else. Recognizing your trauma isn't about pointing fingers at the past. It's about starting a brand new journey, the journey of finally learning to be your own safe harbor. If this video hit a little too close to home, drop a comment down below or share it with someone who you know is grinding through the exact same heavy stuff. Just so we all know that at least on this road to healing, we are definitely not alone. Thanks for listening. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next DeepShift video.